Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve, and today's guest is John Christensen from Native Lumber. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. They're great. So why don't you tell everybody about your origin story? How'd you get started?
Well, it's kind of a long story, I guess. We've had a little sawmill on our family ranch for just about every generation. Which my little girls will be the fifth generation on the place. And
wow.
So our very first mill was right after the turn of the century, a little steam-powered circle mill that a grandfather and his brothers used to build a house. And then, and their father actually worked on a mill not far from here on a bigger production mill. And then they grew into a little bit bigger, an American number one that they ran in the 40s and 50s. And then my dad took that over and my mom and dad ran that into the 90s. And then they went a different direction because of a partner leaving. And so we haven't had an operational mill since then. And my wife and I, and my best friend, Curtis Baker, he's not here today, but we kind of put our heads together and we were going to rebuild that circle mill. And with some research and all, we ended up purchasing a Cook's sawmill and edger 5 years ago. And we brought that in to kind of take care of our own needs and hopefully sell some boards here and there. And it's kind of blown into a full scale operation. So now awesome. There's 3 of us full-time and 5 of us, 2 more guys that come in part-time and help us at the end of the week. But another one of my best friends that we all grew up together. We've known each other since kindergarten.
Wow.
He works with us now. So those are the 3 of us that are full-time. And then 2 guys come on and work a couple days a week to help us out on larger orders.
What was the challenge of being able to bring the sort of family legacy back up to where it is today? What kind of things did you need to do?
Well, one of the toughest things was I wasn't able to ask my dad, Roy, any advice on milling techniques because he ran a circle saw that was the blade was stationary in a carriage, and so the log ran up and down the track. And of course, our bandsaw, the log is stationary, and the head unit runs up and down, and you're measuring from the top down, and he was used to measuring from the outside in. So that was kind of the biggest challenge in the beginning is we just dove in head first and figured out how to swim later. The business part of it, we run several little family businesses. So kind of had our feet wet in as far as those terms. We just adapted on processes and accounting and things like that.
That's really cool. And tell us about what are your main products and services right now?
Oh, there's a whole lot of small mills that focus on their niche is kind of the big live edge slabs. And we don't do a whole lot of that. I mean, we sell, that probably is maybe 10% of our sales. Where we fell into, we mill a lot of production, kind of your typical dimensional type lumber, from 1x3s all the way up to most boards. We mill a lot of big beams, structural beams, and things like that. And then we do keep those live edge slabs for countertops, tabletops. So we keep that on hand, but that's just not where our niche fell into.
How'd you develop that niche?
By chance. So, I wouldn't say that we developed it. It more or less evolved, I would have to say.
Taking chances, getting feedback, learning, and then adapting from there.
Exactly. Yeah, people, I remember our very first large order was that Curtis and I did together. It was a guy who was building a pretty big lean-to. So lots of 2x6s, 2x8s, and 6x6s and stuff like that. So we put together this little package, and now that's kind of the norm. But we mill a lot of, for example, right now we're milling a lot of nominal boards, what's called a 2x4, but it's 1.5 by 3.5. And it's not a planed board, but we can mill those pretty easy because, well, we can beat a big box store by about $4 to $5 a board. And people who are building, either they've got brackets already purchased, or they're working off a set of plans, or they're in addition and they've got to match what's already there. So we're milling a lot of that nominal stuff. And then siding packages, board and batten is a big one. We mill a lot of that type of material.
So it kind of seems like you found this niche based off of the type of mill that you got to be able to produce this one of a kind, unique, high demand product that no one else is doing. Is that what kind of sounds like?
For sure, in this area. Yeah.
And you're really tapping into people that like potentially they like the brand, right? The multi-generation, they like the good quality product, and they're not building tables, they're building actual stuff.
Exactly.
And you provide that for them.
Precisely. Yes.
That's interesting. And I bet you could probably, it's probably like a manufacturing line at that point, because then you're not really thinking about like, oh, this for this client. Like you have an order and you're fulfilling that order, correct?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yes.
That's fascinating. That's so cool.
So you're
like a true mill. You're like a true mill. You're producing lumber that people could use, and it's not just slabs. Yeah.
And the other niche that we fell into is there's a couple really large production mills not far from us, that sawmills that are capable of milling 8 to 10 semi loads a day.
Yeah. Wow.
They're so large that say you come along and you have, you're gonna do an accent wall in your house, and you need 500 square feet of Douglas fir 1x8s. Well, these mills are so big. If you don't place an order for 2,000 board feet or above, they're
not going to touch you. They're not going to touch you. Yeah. You're a waste of time.
Yeah. So we pick up the slack there. So we do
They just throw jobs to you?
Yes. Well, they tell people no, and then now we've been around long enough that they kick people our way.
Because I'm assuming you got good search engine optimization on your website and stuff. Talk about marketing. Like, how are you getting the word out?
I'm extremely fortunate because I'm married to a woman that she and her sister run a high-end web development company. They
so cool.
Branding, websites, the whole startup gig from A to B. They focus on women entrepreneurs, but they do work with quite a few men. So I kind of get I get a good deal, you might say.
You got some equity in that business. That's cool. What's been a challenge so far? I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit about the milling and the techniques and that sort of stuff, but like any challenges with this model?
Yeah, balancing. We all do other things, and so balancing the schedule, and then the admin right now is kind of eating me alive. I handle all of that, and from
It's kind of the worst, huh?
it is. So I run that. Curtis runs the mill. He handles the orders. Dale is right there next to Curtis. And the two of them keep things straight. And then the other two guys come in, and one guy's young, he off bears, and the other guy runs the edger and this and that. And he can run the mill a little bit as well. But so all four of us can run the sawmill. So that's nice. But scheduling and administration is probably, well, I guess administration in general.
So aside from milling custom orders, are you making any furniture?
No. So Curtis, he just he kicked off a little company called Timberline about 6 months ago. And that's going to be his focus is furniture and tongue and groove and shiplap.
That's a good niche right there.
It is.
That's a good niche.
So he bought
I'm a big fan of like keeping your business model simple. It's very, when you have like 7 things that you do, it's really hard to focus,
It is. So I'm pretty adamant on keeping native lumber as far on the rough product line. And Curtis created this line that's native lumber and Timberline will run parallel, but Timberline is his own entity. So the two of us work together, but Timberline will handle the finished side and native lumber handles the rough side.
Yeah.
He's still his own processes and whatnot.
For sure.
But that's kind of where we're headed right now.
How big is your population size around you? Is most of your stuff local? Or are you serving any clients outside of Colorado?
Oh no, everybody's in Colorado. I decided not to mess with any shipping of any of these slabs or anything. It's just,
it seems like you're a pretty straightforward, simple, straight shooter guy. Not to say that it seems like your brain is like, you don't really like complicated things.
No.
Did I sum you up in like 20 minutes of talking so far?
Pretty much.
That's awesome.
I like things to be smooth and simple and efficient. So yes, if I can take the complications out of it, I will. And some people might call that lazy, but whatever.
No, it's totally not. It's efficient. It's a way. I mean, listen, I've been in business for a long time, and I'm even still trying to myself unwind a lot of the complications in my business that I set up. And so whenever I see any woodpreneur out there and they're literally doing everything, I'm like, and then they justify it in their head. They're like, oh, if I keep doing this, then I can make this. And I'm like, but if you stop doing that and you focus on this, you would work less on this and make way more money. Right? Like, well, let me say one more thing, and tell me if this is true. If you're seeing everybody selling live edge slabs, and there's nobody else selling dimensional sort of, product based, they could actually build stuff, building material, like that's a really big white space, right?
Bingo. Yes. So you're absolutely right. The demand swung to the dimensional side, and that's what we focus on. That's what I focus on, trying to streamline, right? I don't want to branch out and try to have all these other little avenues. I want to focus on what the mill is good at and make it 10 times more efficient. That's
and
what
at that moment, are you drying too?
No, we're kicking around that idea because of the planer molder that Curtis is bought. Yeah. The material needs to be dry to run through that.
Yeah.
We're kicking around the idea of a solar kiln.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
But
with your green stuff that you're building, because this mainly is like for lean-tos and outside stuff and framing, you could put that green, right?
Yeah, that stuff goes up just fine green.
Yeah.
And anything that needs any character or a little bit more structural quality, we'll use Douglas fir. Our Douglas fir in Colorado is a smaller form of Western red fir, the big stuff.
And there's probably plenty of that to go around.
When I can get it in. When you can get in. Yeah. That's, you're asking about a hurdle. That's another big hurdle for us is logs. We don't do hardly any of our own logging. And, I was talking about the big mills earlier that can burn 8 or 10 semi loads a day. Well, we're in the, we run through about 2 loads a month. So that's 8 to 10,000 board feet, depending on the semi load. So we're not big enough. I'm not big enough to commit to buying 300 loads of logs per se, but we're bigger than the guy who runs on the weekend and needs a load here and there. So it goes like this. Sometimes I've got to buy 10 or 12 loads at once, and it just maxes our cash availability. Excuse me. And then the rest of the time we trickle in loads here and there, and we gain that ground back. So when I try to operate the business on a cash basis. Kara and I are big fans of Dave Ramsey. I don't know.
Yeah, we know Dave's no debt. Yeah.
So we went through his financial peace thing years ago with our own personal finances. So we try to run our businesses the same way.
Yeah.
And it works out pretty well.
Cool. That's awesome. So this is the part of the podcast where I answer any marketing or business questions that you may have. Is there anything that you need to think through or any challenges that you want to get some advice on?
Well, the administrivia is something I struggle with that I've talked to one of my part-time guys. He's interested in taking a little bit over, but I'm a little reluctant to pass some of it on because I don't feel like my processes are solid in that part.
Sure. Well, here's I just did this not too long ago. Actually, somebody in Colorado, in Boulder, and it was like you take a sheet of paper and you draw a line down the sheet of paper, and you're like, what are things that I absolutely hate to do, right? And on the other side, you write down the things that only you can do, right? And that's probably, there's more things to that. But if you literally write down all of the things that you hate I hate to check email. I hate to file my taxes. I hate doing bookkeeping, right? Like I hate paying bills, like write down every single thing. And the one thing that I like to do is you can use Zoom. There's another application called Loom, Loom, or it's some sort of screen sharing software. So what you would literally do is when you're about to sit down and do the thing that you absolutely hate, do a screen recording of you doing the thing. And then you could go to this part-time guy and say, okay, this is exactly how I like it done. And then you watch him do it. And then you correct him. And then literally as they're doing it, right? After a month or so, say, hey, look, is there any way that we could do this better? And then you get process and have him record that exactly the way it's done. But that's a great way to start. The great way to start is like offload error. People have known this about me in the podcast. I am good at outsourcing whatever you don't like, because so there's a couple places that you could go. You could go to Craigslist and find like a personal assistant, admin assistant. That's the place. You could go to Facebook and look for community groups or working mom group, like stay-at-home mom groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Parent groups and say, hey, you could even have your wife do this. She's probably part of some Facebook, family groups, right? She can join and say, hey, my family business is looking for a part-time administrative assistant. I would start at like $5 or $10, 5 or 10 hours a week. When you write down what the tasks are that you don't like to do, allocate how much time it would save you. And then that's what you add 1 or 2 hours if they're new. But like literally start with like 5 or 10 hours a week, $15 an hour, 10 to 15, whatever it is in your area, $12 to $15 an hour for a stay-at-home mom. That's really good. If you want to get ninja next level, you can outsource to like the Philippines, India. You could go to Fiverr, FIVERR.com. And you can go to.
I'm pretty interested in keeping things local.
Yeah. So hire a local mom or hire a local, a college. I don't want to say a college student, like a recent college grad. Like right now would probably be a good time because school just got out. Kids are graduating. They're looking for stuff. Like at 5 or 10 hours a week at $15 an hour, $10 to $15 an hour, you could probably find somebody good. I like the mom's route. Find a working mom and you just start. You could do that today. Do that today. Write down 5 to 10 things that you absolutely don't want to do at all, but you know how to. The next column is these are things that you have to do, but you don't have the skills for. And then the last column is these are things that you must do. Only you can do. Like I outsource, I outsource my accounting. I set it up so that they don't have access to my bank accounts, only the transactions. They can't move any money, right? Like save yourself like 10, 15, 20 hours a month. That's amazing, right? What could you do with that time? Reach out for more business, grow your team, right? Like do things that you really want to do. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's really helpful, actually. Yeah, I just jotted all this down.
Yeah, you'll also get this on the podcast. So, but yeah, no, seriously, it'll be a big time saver. I like the working moms and the community. And I mean, listen, you post in a Facebook group in your local community, hey, Native Lumber, 4th generation sawmill is looking for an admin assistant. You'll probably get some business just from that post.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? And then you'll get all these people and then post it to your personal Facebook page too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So how can people get in touch? What's your website?
The website is nativelumber.co. Somebody had .com and they wanted too much money for it.
Great. Awesome.
Instagram is Native Lumber. Facebook is Native Lumber. And right now it's just my personal phone is all over the place. That's the cell phone to call.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much. I'm really glad that we got the chance to talk and to share your story. And it's a really cool story about, 4th generation sawmill. I think you should definitely lean into that angle a lot more with your marketing. All right.
Hey, that sounds good. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Take care, John.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com.